The 1970s in America sparkle in memory. Disco balls, neon signs, suburban lawns, a color TV humming in the living room. But beneath the soundtrack of rock and soul, women lived with rules that now feel shocking. In a single decade, they were told to marry young, keep perfect homes, smile through disrespect, and look flawless while earning far less than men. This was the era when a woman could be denied a credit card unless a husband or father co signed, when wifely duty still meant sexual access, because marital rape wasn't widely criminalized until the 1990s, when magazines sold the dream of the ideal housewife while feminists marched for equal pay, reproductive rights, and protection from domestic violence. The 70s were contradiction made visible, a fight between the world as it was and the world women were building. Let's go inside that reality, fact by fact, room by room, so you can feel exactly what it cost to change it. In the early 70s, the blueprint for a good life still began with a wedding ring. Social pressure to marry by the mid 20s was relentless. Being unmarried at 25 to 27 branded you with the word spinster, an insult that implied failure. Divorce existed, but it carried heavy stigma. Family, clergy, and even counselors often pushed wives to work it out for the children, even in cases of infidelity or violence. Inside the home, the hierarchy was explicit. The husband was head of household. The wife managed cooking, cleaning, and child rearing, often called women's work, even when she also held a job. Advice columns and bestsellers preached submission. Maribel Morgan's The Total Woman, 1973, urged wives to meet husbands at the door, in a ribbon, keep conflict invisible, and prioritize his needs. Legal reality mirrored culture. Marital rape laws were virtually non existent. Most states did not recognize it as a crime until the late 1980s and early 1990s. The assumption was chilling. Marriage implied permanent consent. Police frequently treated domestic violence as a private matter, sending a couple back inside to talk it out. Meanwhile, religion and television idealized the nuclear family: dad in a suit, mom with a roast in the oven, children spotless and polite. If a marriage crumbled, the wife often absorbed the blame. She failed at homemaking, failed to keep him faithful, failed to stay attractive. The emotional math was cruel. Women were expected to be the glue and then punished when the structure cracked. Women worked and had for decades, but the gatekeeping was blatant. Acceptable jobs clustered around caregiving and clerical roles: teachers, nurses, secretaries, librarians. A woman who wanted to be a lawyer, doctor, engineer, or executive met open skepticism. You'll quit when you have kids. This isn't a place for women. You're too emotional for court. The paycheck told the rest of the story. In 1970, women earned about 59 cents for every dollar earned by men on average. An economy wide gap that punished female ambition and rewarded male breadwinning. Raises and promotions were rationed by stereotype. Sexual harassment, bosses demanding smiles, touching, dates, or worse, was common and largely unpunished. The term sexual harassment itself didn't gain legal traction until later in the decade. Then came the financial chokehold. Until 1974, most banks required a husband's or father's signature for a woman to get a credit card or a loan. Single, divorced, or widowed women were often denied outright. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act, 1974, finally prohibited credit discrimination based on sex or marital status, cracking open the vault to basic financial autonomy, credit history, a car loan, a mortgage in her own name. Yet, culture lagged. Employers asked women about marriage plans and pregnancy as if they were job qualifications. Maternity leave was rare, childcare scarce and expensive, and having it all was framed as a personal puzzle for women, not a system problem. The message: work if you like, but your first job is at home. The 70s carried a paradox: the language of freedom alongside the policing of female desire. The birth control pill had been approved in 1960, but early access was hemmed in by law and custom. Supreme Court cases pried open the door. Griswold v. Connecticut, 1965, protected married couples' access to contraception. Eisenstadt v. Baird, 1972, extended that right to unmarried people. Even with legal access, the double standard screamed. Men with multiple partners were studs. Women were loose. A short skirt, a night out, even carrying condoms could brand a woman easy. Abortion was the deadliest line in the sand. Before Roe v. Wade, 1973, illegal abortions were widespread and dangerous, costing countless women their health or lives. Roe recognized a constitutional right to abortion, establishing a trimester framework and ushering in safer medical care. It also ignited a cultural war that reshaped American politics for the next 50 years. Meanwhile, the women's liberation movement attacked the full spectrum of control: unequal pay, job segregation, domestic violence, marital rape, and the beauty myth. Feminists opened shelters, organized consciousness-raising groups, lobbied Congress, and marched with signs reading, "My body, my choice," and "Equal pay for equal work." Each demand named a piece of the cage and made it visible to the country watching the evening news. The culture machine ran hot. Magazine covers, TV sitcoms, and ad agencies choreographed womanhood. Be thin, be young, be cheerful, be sexy. But never too sexual. Icons like Farrah Fawcett, Cheryl Tiggs, and, from the late 60s, Twiggy set a narrow template: slim bodies, flawless skin, hair that moved like silk in a fan's breeze. The rules contradicted themselves. No makeup, lazy; too much makeup, trashy. A miniskirt said liberated in one zip code and immoral in another. The message was constant self-monitoring, calories counted in private, smiles practiced in mirrors, bodies judged in changing rooms and office elevators. Advertising layered insult with irony. Liberation was packaged as cigarettes, made for women, perfume that promised power, a compact car she can handle, while the visual grammar kept women serving men, pouring coffee, polishing furniture, dissolving into a satisfied grin when a husband approved. Hollywood added the laugh track. Sitcoms often reduced wives to scolds or ornaments. In dramas, the ambitious woman was punished by loneliness, by humiliation, by a narrative twist restoring natural order. If a female character had sexual agency, the script frequently framed it as tragic or deviant. The cost of stepping outside the script was paid in reputation. Progress arrived in legal increments and cultural earthquakes. By mid-decade, contraception access was protected for unmarried people. Roe, 1973. Change Reproductive Medicine. ECOA, 1974. Pried open the credit system. Title IX, passed in 1972, prohibited sex discrimination in federally funded education, expanding opportunities in classrooms and on playing fields. Yet, the foundation shook under counter currents. The Equal Rights Amendment, ERA, a simple constitutional guarantee of equality, sailed through Congress in 1972 and rocketed through state legislatures, then stalled, never reaching full ratification. Activists on the right rallied housewives against it, arguing it would destroy traditional womanhood, erase separate bathrooms, and put women in combat. Inside offices and factories, women organized. Class action lawsuits challenged discriminatory pay scales and promotion ladders. Sexual harassment, long treated as a joke or a job hazard, began to be named and litigated. Domestic violence shelters, often founded on shoestring budgets, created practical escapes where the law had looked away. The contradiction persisted, the law inching toward equality while daily life still graded women on obedience and appearance. But the momentum shifted. A generation of girls grew up seeing women on picket lines, in graduate seminars, and on the evening news demanding to be heard. Once you see that, you cannot unsee it. The mythology of the 1970s, shimmering dance floors, road trips in convertibles, the revolution on vinyl, hides a second soundtrack, the relentless work of women who refused to accept the script. They pushed courts, confronted employers, built shelters, and rewrote what counted as a crime. They exposed the cost of beauty myths, the price of silence, and the danger of financial dependence. If today a woman can walk into a bank, sign for a loan, enroll in law school, report harassment, choose contraception, or control her medical decisions, that is not an accident of time. It is the legacy of a fight. The 1970s were not just a vibe, they were a turning point carved in law and bone. Remember that when the old script tries to return wearing a new costume.